Okay, I'm back. Okay, let's see. Okay. I don't think, now I'm getting frustrated. Sorry, everybody, I'm having some issues here. I just need to see if I can, okay, I refound myself. It died on me. I had to plug it back in. Usually I have everything charged up, and it died. So I had to plug it back in so that I can be able to follow along and make sure, you know, you want to glance over at your device to make sure that you are in camera and all of that. So here we go. And I'm going to try and calm down because that just got me all flustered. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here for Quilt Mystery Quilt Card Thursday. We are working with Bauble Blooms again this week, and I'm just going to show you another way to use it, but we're throwing in another quilty element so that we can still stay with the quilt cards, but I want to focus on a little bit of stamping and show you just how beautiful this stamp set is. So while I am getting my desk set up for crafting, please say good morning to each other, and we'll I'm going to flip this camera around and we'll get started as soon as I can find my camera. Okay, just bear with me. That had me all miscombobulated. Okay, cover your eyes so I don't make you seasick. And I think we want to come in just a little bit. Cover up that glare. Let's see how this is going. Now I feel so rushed just getting behind that little bit. So just bear with me as I collect myself. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Mary Ann. Hey, Tina. Kathy and Jill, Jasmine, Beth, Linda, Sheila. Yay, good morning, everybody. Hi, Louise. Another Linda. 1, 2, is that 2 Lindas? Where's our third Linda? There's always at least 3. So good morning. Thank you. Let me rearrange. Let's look at the stamp set. Okay, so this is Bauble Blooms, and there's at first when I was playing with this, I thought I could get away with skipping a step with all these two images right here, but really they do fill in places. So after watching Amy and some other demonstrators, I kept playing with it. And what I will say is the first couple of times you're trying to line things up, it might seem a little daunting, but as soon as you find two little dots and you can line it up with those dots, it all falls into place. And now I feel pretty confident, and that happened in a short amount of time. So we're gonna focus on the stamp set, but I do have a quilty element so that we can stick with our quilt cards. Okay, so why don't we, I want to decide where I want to start. Since we've got the stamp set right here, let's get that out of the way. Okay, so I'm just going to move some stuff and hopefully not forget where it's at. So there is this leafy stamp which is just absolutely gorgeous. And that's where I like to start. I don't like to start with the flowers. I found for me, my best bet is to start with the leafy image. And so I am going to stamp that in Old Olive. And my colors that I've chosen to work with all come from the Seasons. I'm using the Seasons of Elegance designer series paper, which carried over from last year. And so that's why I've chosen these colors. And it's a photopolymer set, which is great, especially when you have to line something up. And I'm just going to stamp this right onto this piece of basic white. Now, when I did my, ooh, you know what? I need to go up a little bit because, well, I'm just showing you the stamping. Keep in mind when you're using the set to leave enough cardstock around the image, because it does have a pretty wide border, and that would, I'd probably cut that off if I was using the die. So just make sure that you leave yourself a lot of area around the stamped image. Because I'm just trying to demonstrate how to do the stamping, I'm gonna be okay with that. All right, but isn't that so pretty? So that's like step one for me. I've seen other demonstrators do it in a different order. You just have to find what order works for you. And now I am going to bring in my outline stamp. And if you'll notice, your stamps all kind of have like this comma. It looks like the shape of a comma, and you want the bottom of that comma to be like at the bottom, okay? Because it follows the curve of your first stamped image, okay? And since this is the outline one, I'm going to outline in Cherry Cobbler. And before that, I do that, I'm going to bring in my little pointy tool. There are 2 dots that's going to help me line this stamp setup. Okay, so right down here at the bottom is a little tiny dot. I think you can see that. A little tiny dot. And then right up here, just to the left of noon, if this was a clock, there's another little dot right there. And once you zero in on those 2 little dots, things really seem to line up. And I got pretty good at it just after a couple of tries. Okay, so I'm going to take, and now, let's see, how can I get this out of the way? Because I may have to stand up to do this. The bottom of the stamp has a little dot too. The dots are in the stamp set also. Yeah, you guys, I gotta come down here. But once I just lined up those dots, then I could see that my flowers were in the middle. Let's see how good I did. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. My flowers are in the center, and that lined up pretty good. So Cherry Cobbler and I are not the best of friends when they're left open. So let's get that closed right away. And let's move the stamp out of the way also. So what's great about this bundle is you can do all these stamps and it's a beautiful image. Okay, there's also a die that will cut out the greenery and the 2 middle flowers, which I will show you when we get to that part of today's card. I die cut those pieces and popped them up on dimensionals. for a little bit more depth. But this is definitely a really pretty image if all you do is the stamping. So this has a bolder flower. I'm actually going to stamp off because I want to take some, and I'm using real red now, something to complement with, so that my cherry cobbler outline shows up. So now I'm going to come back down into here, and I'm going to line up those 2 dots. And right now, while I'm lining up my 2 dots, I can see my flowers. We'll see how good we did. Okay, a little off, but depending on what you're using it for, like if I was really unhappy with this, then what I would do is I would just stamp these flowers and die cut them and just put them right over the top. Kind of like when we stamp a sentiment and it's crooked, we can fix it by stamping that sentiment again and maybe using a punch to punch it out and then just glue it right over the top of our oops. Okay, so I did better on the what I have to show you today, but part of this is because I couldn't look at my image the way I wanted to. I would have been like in the camera. So it does line up pretty easy. So I wanted to focus a little bit on that because it's not just all about the die, the ornament die. This stamp set kind of reminds me of in our quilt guild when I first started in the 90s. We had a lady named Lillian, and she was part of the Hungarian embroidery. There was a group of ladies who did Hungarian embroidery, and at the Hungarian festival, they would have items that they made using their embroidery. And for whatever reason, this just gives me that kind of like an old world feel, but it may give you a different feel. So the size of the bauble, Pam, is when it's die cut. Well, here we got one right here. So you're looking at about, I think 2 3/4, yeah, about 2 3/4 inches wide. And then by the time you get the topper on, you're looking at about 3.5 inches. Without the topper, you're looking at about 3 inches. So it's a nice size bauble. Okay. Hi, Barb. How are you in Canada? Hi, Janice. Hey, Gary. Thank you for being here. And Lori, there was my third Linda. Linda popped in. Hi, Deborah. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this because I really find it very pretty. And you need to see that there's more to this bundle than just the die. But I'll tell you, I bought it because of the die. All I saw was quilted ornaments in my future, and so I had to have that die set. Okay, so let's bring in, well, let me just show you the finished bauble that I'm going to use for today. This is the Seasoms of Elegance Designer Series paper that I was using. Here's the other die that I wanted to show you. So in order to pop up the greenery and the 2 flowers, you are going to have to stamp the images. I have not been able to line it up so well that I can get do one cut and get all my pieces. For me, it's easier to do them one at a time. But this die right here will cut out your greenery. And they're actually, these two are attached and these two are attached. So you don't have 4 little pieces, you just have 2, but you have all your leaves, okay? And then if I reposition this over to here and line up my flowers, I can get my 2 die cut flowers, okay? And what I want to show you is this is my finished bauble. And for the popped up flowers, I wanted them to be bold. I didn't want the outline. So when I stamped, I just did the solid image. You can do it however you want. I just wanted a more bold flower because then I'm going to put some gold embellishments in here for the center. But I just popped them all up on dimensionals. And can you see how it just gives us such pretty dimension? And then you've got all your little tiny flowers and your tiny leaves kind of recessed back into the background there. So I wanted a very elegant ornament, and this fits the bill, along with the Seasons of Elegance designer series paper. So that's going to be our bauble. And I'm just going to get these pieces out of the way. So let's bring in what we want to do for our quilty element. Okay, so the card base is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored in half at 4 1/4. We have some gold trim that's optional. I'm going to use 3 colors from that Seasons of Elegance. So I just cut a couple strips each of the 3. You got your basic beige, which I stamped the bauble on. Instead of going with basic white, you can see in this piece here, I did all my stamping on, that's the A side. Whoops. That's the A side of the designer series paper. I flipped it over and just chose to do all my stamping on this background because I thought it kind of gave it that antique or kind of old feeling. Okay, so I got my pieces. We don't really need to talk about these pieces yet. What we're going to focus on is this 1 1/4 by 5.5 inch strip of cardstock, and our strips. I'm going to bring in my cutter ever so briefly, and the first thing I want to do is I want to open up my card base. Oh, I'm going to have to find something to cover that up with. I'm going to cut 1 inch off the right side. So we're going to cut 1 inch off. And you can use this for stamping a sentiment or something, but we're not gonna use it. And then take any one of your 1/2 inch strips and just cut a 1/2 inch square. Okay, so I just reached for the red. So I've got a 1/2 inch square. And now we're going to put the trimmer away. I have such a messy area right now. Okay. And this is going to get us started. I better bring in my silicone mat. When I craft by myself, I usually don't, and I always have a mess. But bringing in the silicone mat, and I'm going to use a fine tip applicator, but I think in this instance you could get by with your other liquid adhesive. So what I'm going to do is on the back side of this 1/2 inch square on point, so diagonally, I just want to put a little bit of adhesive. And what I'm going to do is down at the bottom of this foundation, I'm just going to glue half of that right in the center. Like, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but just somewhere towards the center. Okay, so that's how I'm going to get started. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to start laying down our 1/2 inch strips, and we're going to kind of like do a herringbone or a braid type of pattern. I am not planning this out by any means. You can, after you do it the first time, you can kind of see that you want to do a pattern. I'm just going to kind of just lay things down the way I see it. So it doesn't matter if you start at the left or the right, but you're going to put another piece of designer series paper right next to that square. Okay, let's move that up, and let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, let's go there. Okay, so okay, good. I'm holding a charge. I think there might be something going on, maybe not with the computer, but with my charging. You know what? I'm going to turn this around. I don't want so much gold. I'm going to put that right beside each other, like that. And then my next strip, I'm going back and forth. So I'm working, right now I'm working right to left, but we'll just paint some adhesive in there. I'll just go more with this green. And you want to just focus on a nice straight edge so that you're working off of that like that. Okay, so that's what we got going on. And then we're going to put another piece over here to the right. Now, don't freak out when it looks like you're going to go off the edge. This pattern, this braid comes back. Okay, you got to trust me on that. So the closer we get to that other end, this ends up coming back. I might have wanted to start on the other side. We're going to see what happens. And you can use as many colors as you want. You can use as few colors as you want. Just make sure they're flush. And I'm going to go ahead and clip off these tails right now. I'll come back later and get my ends, but you might find that you need these pieces again. So periodically cut them off and then flip it over. And we left off with that one, so let's bring this one in. Now, I don't know why my braid is starting to go that way. This worked on the last one I did. I put it in the middle. Maybe I didn't start there. Maybe I started here, but I don't think it would matter. What did I do wrong here? I don't know why this didn't work out the way it has. Like I've done like 4 of these and they've all worked out. So that looked like it was going to run off. Well, let's just keep going with it. We're going to keep going with it. Okay, so okay, it's going to work out. I told you to trust me and I just like didn't trust myself. Okay. It's going to come back. it's going to come back. It's only going to freak you out a little bit. I'm pretty sure. Oh my goodness. You have to come back. See how this is starting to get longer? So it does come back. And I'm kind of like going back and forth from beige to white to red. Just trying not to repeat a pattern, repeat a color. Okay, I'm going to flip these around and cut these off. It's kind of a good idea too, to like whatever your dominant color is use that as your foundation piece. That way, if the piece is just too little to cut a strip of designer series paper for, it still blends in. Now, wait a minute. This isn't, is this going to come back? That's going to go there. I don't see this coming back. So, but I got to keep going with it. You guys, what did I do wrong? Here's what I did with another set of designer series paper. Everything is looking kind of the same. I don't know. Let's see where we can get back on track with this. This isn't going to go off the edge. It's only going to be as long as that one that it butts up to. So if it's only going to be as long as that red one, then it brings it back. I don't know. Leave it to the live for this to happen. I'm not going off the edge, so has this got a straight edge? This red one does. I think it might work itself out here. Okay, it's getting longer. Okay. Whew. Okay, I need a white one or a basic beige. And if you find you don't have a straight edge, you just got to make yourself one. Every one that I did worked out like perfectly until like going live. This is very frustrating. And then let's put a green one. And then we got this one here. Let's put a red one. And then we're going to have two probably over here because that is wider than a ½ an inch. Whoops, I should have cut these off first. Okay, hold on. While I try not to stick my fingers in the glue. This one, oh, it almost goes to the end. Almost. But you know what? With that red being there, do you see that little bit of red? You might just think it's the red that's in the paper, so I'm not going to worry about that. So you kind of got this herringbone thing. I don't know why I got so close to this one side, because as many times as I did it, it worked. It started to look like it would go off and then it would come back. So I don't know what was different. Okay. Okay, so there I have my herringbone. And what I like to do is use my little guillotine trimmer here and just clean up my two longest edges. So I know it's 1 1/4 inch wide, so that's what I'm going to just line up this left edge with my 1 1/4. I'm just going to clean up these really fine, see how fine that is? Because this straight line, a really nice straight edge, is going to help line up the rest of what I do with this. So 1 1/4 inch. I only took a little bit off there. Okay. So now to quilt it, I want to show you a couple of new embossing folders. These are called, what did I do with them right here? They're called Glass and Gardens embossing folders, and these are some of the thinner ones. And I used this pattern right here with these flowers to bring in the flowers of my bauble. And what it looks like on the white, that 3 1/4 inch no, 3 inch. This is 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches by 5 1/4. Look how pretty that is. So for my Christmas card, I wanted to stay with a more elegant feel. So this, I just put it in the center there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to quilt my strip. So I'm just going to lay it right in the center. I'm going to step away for a second, and I am going to emboss my herringbone pattern. And there is the herringbone. Look how pretty that shows up on the gold. Can you see it? But look how pretty it is on the deboss side. So you can decide what you want to use, but I would love this folder if I just wanted a debossed element to a card. That is really super pretty. So I have those two elements. I'm going to bring in my card base, and our border here, our quilted border, is going to go along the left side of our card. Let's get that out of the way. So it's going to be a quilted border, and you're going to want to make sure that it goes all the way to the edge. Okay, and it doesn't matter what is the top and what is the bottom. But what's important is I want it all the way out to the edge. The one element of this card that I haven't decided on is how I want to do, I'm decorating the inside, but when it comes to the inside with a sentiment, I haven't decided if I want to put another layer here, or because this is basic white thick, that I just stamp onto here. So I don't know. And then this strip here is going to go right up against that edge, that raw edge, to kind of finish this off. So I'm just going to run a bead of adhesive right along side of my quilted border, and then push this right up against it. This is just a way to separate my border from my sentiment. And I think the gold just really finishes it off nicely. And then, boy, am I messing up the back of this card. You can bet it's going to get designer series paper on the back. Okay, so when you close your card, you're going to have this quilted edge peeking out just a little bit. Well, it peeks out a lot, but you're bringing it in enough that you don't have to worry that it's flush with the outside edge of the front of your card, okay? And now our white on white, which I am a big fan of. I think it's very elegant. That's going to get put right on the inside in the center of this piece right here. Again, it doesn't seem like it's too directional to me, so I don't have to really think too hard about if I've got it going in the right direction. And I'm just going to leave a nice even border on all four sides. So this is our card so far. Isn't that nice and elegant? So this has got that more fancier of a Christmas card feel to it. Again, where is my other finished one? Well, we'll get to that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. So now when it comes to my bauble, I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back. That other piece of cardstock that I had you cut is for a stability layer behind your stamped bauble. Okay, so you're going to want to die cut a backing to your ornament just to give it some stability, because the designer series paper is not that sturdy. So that's why there was another piece of cardstock mentioned in the prep. Okay. And this I'm just going to tilt. I'm not going to do it straight. I'm just going to tilt it a little bit right over that pattern. Okay, now I have a sentiment already stamped, and this is from the same stamp set. It says, wishing you a, and then my dilemma is, do I want to stamp Merry Christmas in there, or do I want to add a layer so that I don't mess it up. I guess it doesn't matter because I can always put a layer over it. But it was one of those things I was just very indecisive on. And I'm only going to put adhesive not all the way to the end because my little banner here is actually going to come out over here to the side, so it's part of it is on the quilted border. Okay, just make sure. Whoops. I'm going to move it over a little bit because I don't want that adhesive. There. Now I don't have adhesive showing there. So, wishing you, and that's a little crooked. Let's see if I can bring that down a little bit. And then I'm going to use the flower accent, the gold gems. Now these are, I thought I wrote down when they'll be back in stock. The flower accents are expected to be back in stock around July 14th. Right now, you can't order them, but they will be coming back. And I am going to put a couple of these in the center of my flower. Come on, Putty. Well, today is not my day. And then I'm going to work in 5s. So I'm going to put in this nice flat white space, I'm going to put a dot or a little flower. And then down here in this white space, I'm going to put a couple more. Just to give it some more bling throughout the card. But this is an elegance, a fancier Christmas card. Now, this one that I had done, also, I did stamp Merry Christmas, and this is from the same stamp set, and I did pretty good. I lined both the words up on one block so that all I had to do was stamp it and just kind of make sure that at least I was straight and not wonky. So that one did come out pretty good. I just wasn't sure with the weight of the card if maybe I wanted another basic white layer just to give some stability to the card. But the basic white thick is pretty nice. So there's the 2 cards, and see how well I was doing on that one. But I think with being that it's such a small quilted piece, it's just a border, and once you quilt it, the pattern, I don't know who's really paying attention to what that pattern is supposed to be. But for whatever reason, I got off there. I don't know why, because I've done several of these. And I always started with that little square right in the center. And now here I started to the left where I started to the right on the other one. I don't know where things got off. So, I'm not sure. This is the greenery and gold designer series paper from last year. Again, it gives that really nice, elegant feel. I'm in the process of finishing this card, but I want to show you another one that I used. Remember back in the day, we had a designer series paper called Blackberry Beauty. Okay. Again, it's got that beautiful gold or bronzy foil in it. And I thought, oh, that would make a pretty card also. So here's what this one looks like, done in different colors. So I didn't use any green at all in this stamping, so this is kind of non-traditional. The ink, back when that paper was in, was cinnamon cider, but I used pecan pie for my greenery. I used the blackberry bliss for the boldness of my flower, but to get the brighter pink, I actually used petunia pop, because that was polished pink. I think when this is polished pink back when we had that as an in color. But I found that if I stamped off with petunia pop, I kind of got the same color. So it's close enough, and it's just really just a little accent color in there. So that's how different of a feel that you can get. And of course then I use some gems that are new. Brought in some petal pink for here, just playing around with it. But at some point at the end of the today, I will have another colorway to show you using this the greens and the golds. So again, look how nice this came out. I don't know where I got off on my on my herringbone, but it's all good. It's all good. It's elegant. It's got the foil. It looks fancy smancy, and it works. And did you notice how different the baubles look when you stamp on a colored background instead of the white? So just the differences here are really nice. So that is today's card. I've got a couple to give away. So let's see. How about in the comments, type herringbone, and I'll give a couple of them away. I'm still in the midst of making more. It's been kind of a crazy week. I hope everybody has been having a good week. Please keep everybody in your thoughts with all the flooding. Keep Karen and her family and little Emerson in your prayers. And have a blessed rest of your day. Hi, Sherry. And I'll be checking over in the community group, Quilt Cards and More, to see how your herringbone border turned out. I hope better than what I showed you. I honestly don't know where I went wrong, but I tried getting it back, and I thought it would come back, and it did a little, but not like it did when I've been working on several. So anyway, hi Holly, hi Carol, hey Marianne, and there's our fourth Linda. Yay. Hey Debbie. So again, everybody have a blessed day. I'll be checking in a little bit later, and I'd like to see how your more elegant Bauble Blooms Christmas cards, what they look like. Okay, talk to you later.